And I didn't see anything that you wrote, so I'll ask you, what brings you here today?
I heard a few of those podcasts,
Hmm.
and it was just like super interesting. Um, the the thing that resonated with me most is that kind of like blueprint field you spoke about,
Hmm.
and like just because I've been working on myself a lot, especially with like ayahuasca and plant medicines.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah, you want to throw some transmutation in there, some alchemy for sure. Whenever you're doing, things that help you expand and explore, you want to make sure you're kind of throwing anything that's not good in the wood chipper.
Mhm. What do you mean by that?
Alchemy. You ever hear of the word alchemy?
I've heard of it. Yes, yes,
So
like
I want to
changing.
make sure that I have a consistent routine where I'm acknowledging any lower emotions, any negative thoughts, any lower energies on a regular basis. In other words, I'm putting light on them. And then I'm saying, thank you for what you're teaching me. I send you into the heart space or the Christ, because that's where you're going to transmute it. You're going to transform it, um, rather than have it stay around in the body. So I'm looking to kind of cultivate, and I want to look at myself like a computer and kind of frame how I relate to energies, like the lower emotional scale. I don't want to label it too much. I don't want to think with it too much. I want to say density, in other words, heaviness. I want to say, thank you for what you're teaching me. I send you here. So I can basically rewire that frequency, that energy back through the heart space. Because what happens is we oscillate in and out of light and dark, heavy and light, heavy and light. And I want to be able to control that oscillation, uh, but I need a firm ground to do that. And it's very hard to do that if my energy is being short circuited out. It's being drained before I can really cultivate my potential.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I find myself sometimes I'll process like a negative emotion, let's say, and I'm in like this space of myself, like I'm calm, peaceful, and confident. And
Mm-hmm.
like again, I keep falling back. It's like sometimes it gets heavy and it just keeps getting heavy.
It's like for me, for most of my life, and for a lot of people, it's like they're cultivating and they're getting short circuited before they can reach that point where they can really anchor in their divine self into the 3D, to where they can really realize their own potential. So it's like we're cultivating, we get drained, cultivating, get drained. But it's because we're in a multiverse. It's because we spent our energy and attached our identity to all these different places and people. And luckily, I have a process to call all of that back and to kind of realign my identity. I basically want to inform myself, my cells, my body, my energy, that I'm the image of creator I was made in, that's my divine blueprint. That's my identity. I'm an energy playing a character in this holographic quantum reality from this image. I don't need to adhere to all the characters everybody else wants me to be.
Mhm.
I can kind of have my relationship with creation itself, with the energy of love moment to moment, regardless of who's around that can share it with me. But when I have that relationship, when I understand, okay, these are just characters of source in this quantum virtual reality, then it's a lot easier to navigate up and down the emotional scale. You see the higher emotional scale, the lower emotions. What happens is a lot of people go down into lower emotions and they get stuck because
Mhm.
they have attachments through their identity. And that's why I want to reprogram my subconscious a bit to understand this is what you are, not these images. So it's easier when I connect to the Trinity, when I harmonize my mind, my heart, my body to kind of work together for the energy to flow rather than having my thoughts over here, my feelings over there, and my truth over there. So that's the advantage of making these three energies one, uh, mind, heart, body, whatever you want to call it. Father, mother, son, heaven, earth, sun. There's a Trinity aspect.
And you mentioned like a process. What process Like, could I ask what that process is?
Yeah, we can walk through it here. We're going to walk through some practices, but it's a process of rebirth, really, where I want to look at myself as energy, right? I want to know that I'm life force energy, that I'm literally energy, all of the energy in creation, moving through creation. And then I want to take a look at a car and a car battery, and my cells in my body have positive and negative. My body's no different than a battery, and my heart is like the alternator. So the problem is, I don't want my battery to be short circuited into the past with shame, guilt, regret, into the future with fear, worry, stress. I want to address these short circuits of my potential, put it that way. Um, because when I do that and I start to singularize myself, then I really become the same identity on all timelines. It's like a quantum superposition, and it's much easier to kind of reach that timeline where you want to exist as whatever character it is you want to play, rather than programming or any of that stuff. I don't know if I answered your question. I went so far out there.
I mean, it's super interesting. I was just thinking like I didn't one thing I didn't hear was like the process. Like, is there like certain like steps that you follow? Like,
Yeah, so what I do is I wake up in the morning, and I did this for a good couple of years
okay.
while I was pushing back against any negative patterns, habits, impulses, my shadow, in other words, my lower self. I was trying to transform that. To do that, I needed to keep putting light on it and
Mhm.
moving it into this field of my heart to be transformed and acknowledged. Because a lot of it is wounded parts of myself based on past programming from childhood or relationships or whatever it may be. So it deserved acknowledgement. And when I speak to my emotions, I try to make it not personal, it's just energy and data. So I speak to them like they're kids. I'm going to give this heavy emotion, gratitude, love, and forgiveness like I would a child, but then I'm going to state my identity very firmly. So in the morning, it's like you're building a program, you're cultivating energy. What I do is I connect with the Trinity, harmonize my mind, heart, body, kind of connect them or sync them up. Then I give gratitude, and I give gratitude to the tree. If I can't really get into it, I'm like, thank you for giving me oxygen. And I start small. What I'm doing is I'm firing neurons from my brain to my heart, and I'm trying to fire as many as I can and to really be as honestly thankful as I can, because it's going to increase the amount. So I charge myself a bit with gratitude after connecting, and then I give thanks for already being whole, for already being validated, for already being forgiven, and for already being loved. Now I go throughout the day, and that's a lot less of those emotions I seek from anybody. So I'm
That's cool.
spending less of my energy. I have more available in the moment of now. I'm more expanded. So I'm really looking at building a program to kind of hold this image of myself so that I can connect throughout the day to this peace, to this energy that I am, to my identity. Um, and I want to be aware of how I relate to my thoughts about myself, my thoughts about others, thoughts about the world. I want to try to transform any negative neurotransmission during the day, even if it's physical pain signal being sent through the body. I can shift the polarity and break that signal. So I want to acknowledge anything throughout the day that's lower. Thanks for what you're teaching me. I send you here. I'm already whole. I don't want to push back with a little bit of my will, a little bit of my stubbornness, maybe, to say, hey, this is my space. Whatever signal this is making me feel uncomfortable. And I went from being somebody who was entrenched in physical pain, and then the emotional pain of all the addictions from trying to cover up the physical pain. So it was a whole cycle of trauma. But I didn't realize it was the negative charge stored in my cellular memory that had to get released. And I had to correct how I processed and stored data and energy, how I related to it. If I attach to my emotions, if I have no separation of identity, then they become me. And I didn't want that, because then my identity gets squished. So understanding that I'm the one who becomes aware of my emotions, that I'm not emotions themselves. Very important, because I'm not sadness, anger, frustration, fear. I'm the one that feels them. So in that equation, when I start to realize that, I kind of understand as these things come into my system, I need to speak to them, say, hey, thanks for what you're teaching me, but you're not welcome here. I'm already whole. I don't identify with you, and stop their process of kind of rolling through my nervous system. So it's important to the cultivation of the
Wow,
kind of energy that's going to get you to higher consciousness.
that's super clarifying. Thank you. Let me ask you, when you said gratitude, how does gratitude um like provide that energy?
It's just a specific signal. It's a higher signal. It's a higher frequency.
Oh,
Um, and that's the problem with love and telling people love, because a lot of people have their programmed idea of what love should look like from Disney or growing up from the movies, you know? And it's like, it seems like every single one of us got the idea and then it got shattered. And then we're left to pick up the pieces, but it's really the journey to picking up those pieces. That's the real meat and the experience of going on that journey to find more of myself. So the fast track, or the ascension, if you will, and what's going on in our time period now, is the ability to make all things one. It's all the timelines converging together. So hence, when I call in the Trinity and I connect to the Trinity a bit, I'm a lot less in the past. I don't even really need to think about the past unless I'm grateful for it. And I'm not even worried about the future, because I'm singularizing these three aspects of me that are kind of spread out in space and time, um, as frequencies, energies, and then matter. So there's three, a lot of threes going on. So in the morning, I want to connect, grow some energy, then tell myself I already am whole by saying thank you for already making me whole. Thank you for our. So I'm really putting that information so I can draw on it later. So my body has space to heal. So I'm not questioning myself. I'm building the foundation. Throughout the day, I'm aware. The end of the day is when I speak to any lower energies. So morning, more fresh, building, trying to hold that energy throughout the day. Uh, and you'll know when you're getting far from it by how you see yourself and by how you see the world. That's how I know I'm getting further from my divine image, my divine blueprint, and the reality and the timelines I can live from that identity, versus the other ones where I'm slipping into what so and so thinks about me, or my job, or this or that. So
okay.
end of the day, I speak to anything heavy. I give it basically its gratitude, and I let it know that this is my space and it's sacred. That thank you for teaching me, but you will teach me through the heart intuitively. You don't need to teach me through the 3D. You can teach me on a quantum level and move your energy and data along, because I want my emotions to be visitors, not really long-term tenants. You know,
Wow.
again, I want my identity to be able to go up and down my emotions without getting stuck.
When it gets stuck, does it try to communicate with you by like creating that in the 3D?
It's going to create some type of holographic quantum experience where you're going to learn something. Yeah. So that's why I want to be
Oh,
able to, if I do get stuck a little bit, because I've done subconscious programming for the last week. Now, when I get stuck, I can speak to my nervous system and say, I'm already whole. And now I'm starting to believe it. And that's what expands me. It's when I can't connect to truth. It's when I can't connect to belief. It's when I can't finish my thought. When I can finish my thought, that means my thought goes all the way down to the root. In other words, do you know how to drive a car?
hmm.
Seems like a silly question, but just play along. Do you know how to tie your shoes?
Yes.
And do you know how to make a bowl of cereal?
Yes.
Pretty silly, right? If there's a signal hiding in there, there's a knowing. And
Yeah.
when I can get to that knowing, when it's concerning my identity being already whole, it really magnetizes my entire body, because my thought has completed itself. Now, your thought has a hard time completing itself with your identity because you use that, walking through reality, attaching it to things, being told things through certain programs. Nobody ever came up to me and said, hey, that's not how you make a bowl of cereal. So that program's been solidified. So that's the benefit of like subconsciously programming my identity in a little bit each day. I can move myself right back into the center and claim back my energy pretty quickly, as opposed to being off in an alternate reality, which I don't want to be in.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah.
it's an oscillation. You're looking at oscillating between not only emotions, but the interpretive realities that you experience through them.
Is that what like fragmentation is?
Basically, yeah.
Wow, okay. That's super interesting. So when you say like it's like letting the thought finish, there's certain things that I know to do, like for instance, driving a car.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things where yeah, like I'll spend a lot of time thinking, like, or it'll just like ruminate.
Because
It,
it's from your subconscious and it's been programmed there. And unfortunately, we got programmed with things we witnessed through childhood and downloaded. We're like a computer. We're going to download all this stuff. And we
uh-huh.
did a lot of it like the first 7 years of our lives. That's when you're getting programmed. But we have the ability now to become the programmer and to speak to my cells and reprogram the cellular memory to kind of shift the polarity and the voltage in my system so that I'm not being um, drained before I can reach seeing and believing in my higher self being a reality. I know when I can believe it, I'm pretty clear because that means my thought finished that knowing. When I can't believe it, there's something in my system interrupting or stopping it. That's when I acknowledge it and speak to it. Then I try to be a little bit more firm, but I'm always looking at my relationship with truth. I want to be the witness to how does this feel? Did I believe that? Did I not believe that? How can I be firmer? Can I be gentler? How can I shift this energy?
Hmm. And so you like you can cultivate that belief and knowing.
Mm-hmm. It should be easier after we do some practices here if you want to do some practices. And I'll
Okay.
send you the practices that I have that say kind of like morning, evening.
Yeah.
Um, and it's almost like we're all connected to a circuit. And I want to restore the singular aspect of myself so that I have my identity superpositioned in all times and places. I don't have to play, I'm free to play a character and I don't have to think I am that character. I'm free to experience my life without the bondage of being attached to this earthly place. So the more I can connect to the singular aspect of myself as an energy, just being human, the easier it is to connect to that singular aspect of everything and that oneness. And it's a lot easier to move around. So I know I talk a lot. That's why I record it.
I can't wait to listen to the recording. Like I don't have like a paper, but there's some good notes.
All right. So, yeah, and most importantly, is the most important thing they taught me was connect to the Trinity and start speaking to your physical pain, start speaking to your emotions, and learn to match your thoughts with your intent and your desire. Discard and speak to anything that doesn't match that, and then learn to match your thoughts, your intent with your truth or your actions. And that started to kind of like sync up this system as kind of like one thing. And I stopped seeing things as separate anymore, and making the inner outer distinction where, moment to moment, my only responsibility is to have a love story with creation itself and the energy of love. Everything else will come next. So moment to moment, I want to stay close to that energy, even if it's in my own thoughts when nobody's around. I want to have a relationship with some sense of sacred experience here, and that's my identity, the energy of love. So by having a relationship and an accountability to that for what I create, my identity doesn't go too far. It's easier to see myself. Therefore, it's easier to experience this place without getting stuck. So again, that signal of knowing, that takes a little time to work in,
Yeah.
especially when it's attached to my identity.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely I can see where the practice part plays a role. It's like uh
Hmm.
let's say it's like figuring out my purpose or figuring out like a business or something. I find like I hit this wall of heaviness that's just so hard to break through.
Yeah, there's not enough energy frequency there to cultivate creating that timeline.
Huh.
Yep. Cultivate more, stronger frequency, then I'm going to be able to finish this timeline. In other words, I can't quantum leap because my frequency is not a match to this trajectory to where I want to be.
Wow, that's 100%. That's 100% true.
And so I want to embody the character that is going to sustain that. And working on, like speaking to the body as if something's already finished, can really help with that, where you start to embody enough resonance to finish this, to have enough thought power, creativity, whatever it may be, to be coming to you through a universal source, to help you finish the projects. But yeah, it's that I want my frequency right. And that's a little cultivation, correcting data management, how I relate to energy, store it and process it, and things like that.
Mhm.
So it's literally like technical assistance. It's like in the quantum virtual reality that we're in playing these characters. But I don't
Yeah.
want attachment to the character. That's
Mhm.
important.
It's like what comes to my mind when when you were saying that is like it's like I enter this place and now the project is continuing and it does feel like I'm like too low energy. Like the energy is low. I don't feel like I have enough energy to continue on that
Mm-hmm.
path. And I just see it from afar now. It's kind of like what you were saying with like those lower energies. Feels like I am that lower energy, and that's why I can't jump.
Yeah, like you have some attachments to the certain identities and energies or emotions,
Mhm.
that are lower resonance. So I realized, I'm like, man, if I don't have the ability to be grateful for where I am and I can't generate that type of energy and I'm not present, first and foremost, if I'm not present, I'm not going anywhere because my energy is over there or it's back there. When
Mhm.
really time is not linear. So I'm actually just spreading myself out and making myself flat as a signal.
Wow.
So that's why I don't want to be too much in the past, because past does not exist.
It's like yesterday, like I was in this.
Don't get me wrong, acknowledge it, give it gratitude, love, feel it, look at it, but I don't want to be in there needing anything.
That's interesting. Like I felt like it's like anytime my mind spends energy on the past or on the future, it just like manifests as that low energy feeling in my body.
Yeah, it's almost like a contraction, right?
Exactly. Like I start to tense up, it's like a tense up within my body, and that's what keeps that energy, or that's what that energy is.
Right. So you might feel some of that when we do this. You might feel tingles, you might feel
Okay.
sensations. Basically, what I'll be doing is I'll be speaking and I'm going to have you repeat what I'm saying, but quietly in your mind. We'll invite in the Trinity. We'll inform our subconscious and anything else in it that doesn't match this, that our identity is, etc. And we'll kind of build on that. And then we'll speak to anything that's not love. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions though so far? I know it's far out topics. Believe it or not, I used to be pretty normal, dude, like 15 years ago.
I mean, like, I don't know, like I had my kind of like experiences, and also like I don't know, it's super interesting. The more I continue in it, the more like it feels so true and healing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the only, I was, by the time stuff started to happen and I saw balls of light in my room and these voices are speaking to me and they're telling me about the Galactic Federation. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. Just leave me alone. I had never heard of this stuff, so I'm going to look it up and I'm finding information on it. And what really convinced me by that time was what I was feeling. was what I was experiencing in my body, my mind, the visions, um, all kinds of stuff. And it was the going from being in pain and miserable and hating the world and this life sucks and why do I have to do this every day, to being
Yeah.
somebody my family didn't recognize. I was like, that was the magic. And I think that was the change through embodying that Christ within me and through connecting to that and becoming accountable for my creations, you know, allowing myself to be transformed. Many times they told me you were willing. That was it.
Hmm.
You know,
Like
and
very interesting. Yeah, like willingness.
yeah, and by that time I thought if there was a God, and I thought there might be a God. I wasn't sure if what happened to me had anything to do with God because I didn't see God or anything. But I thought if there was a God, then he doesn't like me. That was my mindset at that point. And I wanted to leave, dude. I was done with the world. I figured I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 50, with all the pain and the accidents. And I played
Um,
sports a lot of broken bones. And now I'm pain free. I don't even take ibuprofen. And, I do a lot of what I want to do, play sports with my nephews and go hiking and whatnot. But it was a total change in identity that did it and what I was relating to myself as. Like I realized I didn't need to play any of the characters people wanted to cast me in. That was prison for me to think I could fulfill 100 different images in 100 different minds. I can be this image and then allow people to love me or not, and then have this relationship with creation. And during that time, I was working with people at Alzheimer's and dementia. I had the biggest epiphany ever as I was working on trying to stay present and not dislike my job. The biggest epiphany came to me that the good feelings after helping somebody and caring for somebody who couldn't do it themselves and the love they showed me wasn't them, that it was coming from creator. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, that means all these people are creator. And I'm fostering a relationship with creator through these avatars. It's like,
well,
so every single person's butt that I wiped for 3 years was the creator's butt. So I'm like, however good I did giving this person medicine, caring for him, said something about my creation, my relationship with creator, and how good that was going to be and how present it was going to be in me. So I was starting to make all these distinctions, you know.
wow.
Um,
That's like so eye-opening.
so it's every living being is me, because everything's connected to a circuit, and it's all just, everything came from the singularity. Everything is going to go back to it. So
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, it's pretty weird. Yeah. Uh,
Wow.
but we're definitely in a multiverse. I know that. I knew that early on, and it was things before anybody said anything about the word multiverse anywhere. There were things they were telling me to call all of my multidimensional selves into the moment of now through the Christ, to pull all of my energy back and acknowledge it, give it gratitude, love, and forgiveness, clean out the closets, in other words.
Can I ask you when you mean Christ,
Mhm.
what do you
That,
mean?
well, I
Like,
mean, it's the fulfillment of a law, right? Because Jesus came to fulfill the law. It's love. It's universal love and the embodiment of your higher self in the 3D. It's also the law of one. It's also a singularity of the self. But I don't mean Jesus. I mean what Jesus was teaching us in
right?
particular. However, I pay homage to Jesus. I have pictures of him everywhere. I love him. I believe he's the only one who made the sacrifice to show us how to do this. He's like, listen, man, I'm going to show you. This is the only time you're going to be shown, uh, this way. So I pay so much respect for the sacrifice to bring the message into the 3D of non-duality, of making both poles positive and negative one. So I'm no longer fighting myself or the world disguised as myself.
And him like sacrificing himself showed that how exactly.
Um, I think the sacrifice of himself was showing the sacrifice of how we should be with the world, with each other, uh, but also coming into the 3D to make it real, to make it known, to make it written. Now, I don't believe all of its history. I don't even honestly know if he was historically here. However, when I follow the formula, I can't deny it. That's the conclusion I came to. And I got really into the Gnostic stuff and was never raised religious. So when I started to have all these visions and synchronicities and Jesus and angels and the stuff wouldn't leave me alone, I had to look at it.
Wow. And that's like the teaching of love. What can I ask for your definition of love? Is it
I I would say it's an energy. It's an unconditional feeling that you can allow someone to feel without your judgment or opinion in the way.
Mhm.
Can I hold this without my mind going anywhere? You know, it's that full presence. It's the love a kid would give you.
Yeah. Wow, awesome.
Alrighty. So, all right, when you're ready, basically I'll start speaking. And you can close your eyes and take a couple good deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And what you're going to do is just follow along and repeat in your mind. I'll go nice and slow. Within your mind, I ask the Holy Spirit to enter my consciousness. Thank you. I ask the Christ to expand within me. Thank you. I ask Creator to surround me. Thank you. And now we're going to bring our identity into our subconscious awareness. I claim the image of Creator that I was made in. My divine blueprint as my identity through the Christ. Thank you. I claim my 0 point energy through the Christ. Thank you. I ask my guides into my sacred space. Thank you. I call all of my multidimensional energy past, present, and future into the moment of now through the Christ. Thank you. I thank and forgive. And you want to try to imagine like you're giving thankfulness and forgiveness to a child. So no different than a child. I thank and forgive all parts of myself and all others who were and are a part of my experience. Now we're going to get kind of firm. I am a sovereign being. It's just the way it is. Non-negotiable, already is. I am a sovereign being. I am a sacred being. I am a holy being. I am the energy of love, having a human experience. And we want to keep relating to this identity. So we say, I am already whole. I am already loved. I am already forgiven. And I am already validated through the Christ. And here I play with my tone a little bit to make it as firm as possible. I want my body to feel as much truth with it as I can. I bind together all lower frequencies, energies, and densities as one to the Christ for transmutation on all timelines, dimensions, and realities. With gratitude, love, and forgiveness, all lower energies and past identities will move into the heart space as one. I no longer identify with you. That's the one where usually people feel a little contraction. I no longer identify with you. I am now expanding. I am claiming all space in this body. Through my identity in the Christ. All right, now I'm going to speak some things you don't have to repeat. Just stay as you are. Take a couple good deep breaths. Couple good breaths in and out. You do not have to repeat this. I bind together all lower frequencies, energies, and densities, any lower data, programs, or cellular memory, any lower thought forms, embodiments, or false belief systems, any ancestral or family generational karma, trauma, or genetic imprints, any childhood programming or trauma, any past life programming or trauma, Any lower habits, patterns, or impulses, imprints, blueprints, or structures not from love. Any attachments to fear, worry, stress, anxiety, sadness, depression, anger, shame, guilt, or regret. And all lower energies that have not moved through the heart space yet. You are claimed by the Elohim through the Christ on every timeline, dimension, and reality that you exist on. This is holy space and sacred space. With gratitude, love, and forgiveness, all lower energies are wrapped in white and gold and will move into the heart space as one. All right. I can kind of feel some of your sacral starting to link up and things moving from in your belly there. We can break and you can open your eyes and you can let me know how are you feeling as you were speaking to yourself.
Very peaceful and very spacious. Like I felt like a lot of space.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. Some of the most common things are like, I feel lighter. I feel a lot like I have a lot more space to think.
Mhm.
Um, and it's almost like, do you know anything about computers?
Yeah.
It's almost like defragmenting a hard drive. Same deal, except I'm addressing all this data and this energy I don't need anymore moving forward. But it's like I didn't have a place to put it. I didn't have a place to process it or transform it. Well, that's the field of the heart. So that's why regularly I acknowledge things and it kind of keeps me in that higher space as opposed to feeling those ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs.